Yai lai la la lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai la la lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. Yai lai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai la la lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai.
It's good. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
So good to be here in this space, this beautiful weather. We hear the birds chirping. It's a Friday night. There was no traffic. Everything has aligned for us to be here to celebrate Shabbat. And so before we move into our service, I'll just invite you to find someone you don't know, introduce yourself. You can even get up and wish them a Shabbat shalom. That's my favorite. It's so good. So good. We are going to move into our prayer on page 10. Hine matov. These are words from our psalmist reminding us that Shabbat is best celebrated when we are together in community, whether you're here in person, whether everyone can wave at the cameras to the people who are joining us from home. We are really grateful to be here with you. So let's join together page 10, top of the page.
טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים, שבת אחים גם יחד. One more time. שבת אחים גם יחד. So we are here today coming from wherever it is that we've come from outside of this space. Whatever experiences we've had, that we look at each other and there's no way to know what we've all been through. But what we do know is that we're here. And we're here for this moment, for this hour, to experience just a glimmer of Shabbat, to really feel grounded and present and here in this moment. And I think sometimes there's a lot of questions that I like to just sort of pose in my head. Sometimes I get lost in the questions that I have going on. And I came across this poem that I think is just, it's really great. And I think helps me to just sort of say, what I don't know, it'll all be okay. And there's just this comfort in it. So this is called What Do You Know That I Don't by Tanner Olson. I guess this is just me wondering. And I know if you told us the future, we wouldn't need faith. If you gave us all the answers, it would steal away the beauty of the mystery. And God, the mystery, is beautiful. But there is something in the waiting and the wondering. There is something for me in the waiting and the wondering. But I know you know something I don't. I know you know everything I don't. I'm not asking for all the answers, but I'm wondering, is it going to be okay? Is it all going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Okay. So as we welcome in Shabbat, know for this moment, we're all okay. And that's as good as sometimes it can get for us to be here. So we will continue on page 10 with Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh of Harachaman, of Harachaman, Meshoch Avdecha El Ritzonecha, El Ritzonecha. Yarutz avdecha kemo ayal yishtachave el mul hatarecha. Yedid nefesh av harachaman, av harachaman. Meshoch avdecha el ritzonecha, el ritzonecha.
We'll continue Shabbat as a celebration on page 20 with Lecha Dodi. For some of you, this will be a familiar melody. Others, it's still a little bit newer, but just join with us. Page 20.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Verse 1.
Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad Hishmianu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad L'shemo tiferet v'litchila Lecha Dodi likrat
21 and face the entrance.
אוי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת עלה, בני שבת מקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת עלה, בני שבת מקבלה.
We continue on page 28, standing if you're able for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
You may be seated. As we move in our liturgy, at this point we usually say Ma'ariv, Aravim. This is a prayer reenacting creation. And then we move from that prayer to a prayer of love, and then into our prayer of connectedness, of Shema. I wanted to share this poem that I was reintroduced to today. It's written by the climate activist. Her name is Aisha Siddiqa. And her poem is called, On Another Panel About Climate, They Asked Me to Sell the Future, and All I've Got is a love poem. And so here is her love poem. What if the future is soft and revolution is so kind that there is no end to us in sight? Whole cities breathe and bad luck is bested by a promise to the leaves. To withstand your own end is difficult. The future frolics about promise to no one, as is her right. Rage against injustice makes the voice grow harsher yet. If the future leaves without us, the silence that will follow will be an unspeakable nothing. What if we convince her to stay? How rare and beautiful it is that we exist. What if we stun existence one more time? When I wake up, get out of bed, my 7-year-old cousin with her ruptured belly tags along, then follows my grandmother, aunts, my other cousins, and the violent shape of their drinking water. The earth remembers everything. Our bodies are the color of the earth, and we are nobodies. Been born from so many apocalypses, what's one more? Love is still the only revenge. It grows each time the earth is set on fire. But for what it's worth, I do this again. Gamble on humanity 100 times over. Commit to life unto life. As the trees fall and take us with them, I'd follow love into extinction. We'll join together in our prayer of Shema, a reminder of the thread that connects all of us together and humanity. If you're able, I'll invite you to please rise. We're on page 34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha vehayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Let's read together on the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi Chamocha is on page 40.
Yai lai 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 yai lai lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai yai lai 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 yai lai 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 lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh, Torah tehi yai, lai, 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 lai. So I'm not sure how many people know this about me, but may be obvious. I am a camp kid through and through. Every ounce of me bleeds camp. I grew up going to Camp Swig and eventually Camp Newman. It's still a huge part of my life, so much so that my parents just got home from being on faculty. My dad was a doctor. My mom taught in the arts session, and it's still such an incredibly amazing place in my life. And we were sort of all this talk about the fires and this. Camp Newman was very severely affected by the fires up north. I guess it was now 4 or 5 years ago, to the point where the entire camp was burned down completely. And they've, over the last couple of years, remodeled, and now it's this state-of-the-art, incredible, beautiful, wonderful place. And I think about one spot in particular at camp that, for me, brought this sense of safety and connection and warmth, and that is a grove that was planted, thank you, of redwoods, that was planted in honor of my uncle who passed away, who was a rabbi that was very, very beloved there. And I was thinking about the fires, and it was planted before the fires, and it is one of the only things that stayed standing, didn't burn down, smack dab in the center of camp. And I was talking to my parents, and I said, how's it looking? Tell me, I want to hear. He said, the trees are about 25 feet tall already, and there are hammocks from one tree to the next. And it's this place of safety for these kids. They come, sometimes kids don't want to be at services, or that's not what they want to do. And they come and they sit in this place of protection. And that's what reminds me, what I think the joy, that place of safety is what Hashkivenu means to me. So much so that this song also is the version that we would sing at camp every single summer. And so would love for you guys to just take a moment to imagine a place in your life that provides that safety, that warmth, that protection. And maybe it's right here. Or maybe it's a place you grew up going to. Whatever place it is, I'd invite you to take that feeling and bring it into the space here today as we sing this song, this prayer, this opportunity to say to God, continue to protect me. Help me feel safe, especially when we're living in a world that isn't so safe at the moment. We'll join together in Hashkivenu on page 42. Actually, it's on the supplement. My bad. It's on the bottom of your supplement. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom V'ha'amidenu Malkeinu L'chaim Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Amen.
continue with the Amidah on page 46. Again, if you're able, we'll invite you to please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Page 48.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We'll continue in silence through page 62. You can pray the words of the prayer book or take some time for your own prayers and be seated whenever you are ready.
You turn my mourning into dancing, so that my soul might sing to you, so that my soul sings to you, and it not be stilled. You turn my mourning into dancing, so that my soul might sing to you, so that my soul sings to you, and it not be still. Oh God, my I sing praises to the Holy One who lifts me up when I have fallen. And I cry to you to heal me, and you have answered all my prayers. And I ask you to be gracious and hear me, Adonai. And I call to you to help me, and you supported me with joy. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh turn my mourning into dancing, so that my soul might sing to you, so that my soul sing to you, and it not be still. You turn my mourning into dancing. Turn my mourning into dancing.
In 1915, British cartoonist William Ely Hill published a drawing entitled My Wife and My Mother-in-Law, an optical illusion still used today to teach us the power of perspective. Depending on how one looks at Hill's drawing, it can either appear as a young woman looking away or as an older woman facing the observer, but never both at once. Looking upon the drawing reveals just how much our perspective affects our interpretation of reality. This week's parashah, Devarim, begins the final book of the Torah, Deuteronomy. As the Israelites encamp on the plains of Moab, overlooking the Promised Land, Moses begins his farewell speech, recounting their 40-year journey and offering lessons to draw upon as the Israelites prepare to enter the land. One of the first tales that Moses recounts is the famous story of the 12 spies, first narrated in the book of Numbers. God instructs, as many of you might know, Moses to send 12 spies, one from each tribe, to scout the land. 10 of the 12 return with terrifying stories of giants and a flourishing land that they deem is out of their reach. Frightened, the Israelites vow to return to Egypt before God dooms them to wander the wilderness for 40 years so that their children may enter the land without them. Yet in his retelling of this tale, Moses changes several key details. In his version, it is the people who demand to spy out the land, not God. Furthermore, Moses omits the frightening narratives delivered by the spies, suggesting that the people revolted on their own. Meanwhile, Moses recounts that he, not Joshua and Caleb, encouraged the people to have faith in God. His account, as articulated in this week's parashah, clearly differs from the one that's recorded by the author in Numbers. In Numbers, Moses is rarely referenced. He's almost a bystander to events. Here, as the central voice in the narrative, he takes center stage as one might expect. After all, we all typically play the leading role in the telling of the stories of our lives, and the Torah beautifully captures through the eyes of its greatest hero, Moses, how stories change and shift in the hands of different authors, illustrating the power of perspective to transform our understanding. Contemporary culture channels the power of perspective as well, offering us countless works in prose, in music and film, on stage even, designed to help broaden our understanding of society. Even modern musicals embrace the nuance of perspective by offering us time-tested narratives through the eyes of new protagonists. In Wicked, raise your hand if you've seen Wicked. Everyone has seen Wicked. Well, this is a promo for Wicked if you have not seen it. We discover the Wizard of Oz from the view of the Wicked Witch, learning who she is as a person and how she becomes so readily identified as a villain. Meanwhile, in Hamilton, yes, okay. All right, you've seen Hamilton. Okay, we have a little work to do, but it's okay. Okay, in Hamilton, here's your preview. We relearn United States history from the perspective of an immigrant who all too often remains a footnote to Thomas Jefferson in American history textbooks. Meanwhile, contemporary authors have widened perspectives in Jewish tradition as well. In her book, The 5 Books of Miriam, author Ellen Frankel creates modern midrash. She imagines what characters, in this case women, would have said or experienced since they are largely silent in a male-dominated canon. She imagines Miriam in conversation with Shifra and Pua, the midwives, alongside the Talmudic scholar Bruria and the prophetess Huldah. Other movements in our day have sought to raise the voices of perspectives that have for too long been left out of the dominant American narrative, whether it's the feminist movement or the Black Lives Matter movement, and most recently the voices of LGBTQ+ individuals. These threads deepen our relationship to our tradition and to our modern society by adding new textures, new voices, and by complicating the story to invite us into a bigger view of the world around us. For though Moses' retelling of the episode of the spies illustrates the power of multiple viewpoints, it also plainly illustrates the limits of an individual perspective. Missing from Moses' tale are key details, even key figures like Joshua and Caleb, which are simply swept away to deliver a harmonious narrative that celebrates Moses as the hero and places blame on the Israelites. It's very human to like our stories clean and neat, where everyone plays their role and doesn't move outside the confines of their identities. But as Moses' tale demonstrates, there are real consequences to such narratives. As author Rebecca Solnit writes, the common denominator of so many of the strange and troubling cultural narratives coming our way is a set of assumptions about who matters, whose story it is, who deserves the pity and the treats and the presumptions of innocence, the kid gloves and the red carpet, and ultimately the kingdom, the power, and the glory. One of the battles of our time, she writes, is about who the story is about, who matters, and who decides. Who gets to tell the story of our families? Who owns the story of our nation? Whose perspectives are highlighted in Jewish tradition and whose are silenced? All too often, we become Moses, only seeing a story through our own narrow lens, usually not out of malice, but because it takes hard work to see outside the contours of our own experience. But we can broaden our perspective. We can expand our stories to make room for those who have been left out, sometimes for far too long, and face the painful omissions of our past and even of today. But before we can do so, we must first learn to listen, to open our hearts and our minds to the stories that have been absent from our narrative. Sometimes these new stories will disrupt the narrative that we have held onto or benefited from. Sometimes these new stories may make us uncomfortable or challenge the truths about ourselves or our society. But they can also help us become more whole. What if our families and our tradition and our nation all committed to including as many voices as possible in the stories of our lives. Then we could create a fuller, more nuanced narrative, albeit more complicated and messier one, that could lift up and challenge all of us as we look toward the new year ahead. Shabbat Shalom.
Part of our stories include those in our lives who are in need of healing, be it of body or of mind or of spirit. So we'll invite us to share names aloud, people that you're thinking about today that are in need of that support, that phone call, that visit. And then we'll join together in our Misha Berach prayer. I'll start over here, and please share names. Yes. Yeah. Join together in our Misha Berach on page 253. Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Aleinu can be found on page 282. We'll invite you again, if you're able, to please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד.
Words to prepare us for Mourner's Kaddish are on the top of 291. They're from Rabbi Richard Levy. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what they were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us, alone, must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We can do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life, now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. As we recite Kaddish this Shabbat, we especially remember longtime LBT member Buff Given, whom death has taken from us recently. And we link her name with Robert H. Aaron, Lottie Altman, Winifred W. Beck, Florence Bell, Marjorie Cornell, Grace Eileen Echito, Alexandra Fischel, Anna Flesch, Bernard Glatt, Jack Gombe, Eva Leah Gunther, Esther Gutlin, Diane Hockman, Lillian Ruth Kaufman, Linda Hope Lewis, Hyman Lieber, Martin Molotnik, Max Osdeby, Josh Prago, Esther Smith, Israel Snyder, Min Tesler, Gloria Weinberg, Lily M. Worth, Peg Yorkin, and Gary Zimmerman. If there are other names that we should add, or if I mispronounce the name of your loved one, I'll invite you to share their name at this time. We also think of all of those who have died as innocent victims of violence in a world that is filled with far too much violence, and those who have died protecting our country and our people's ancient home. We'll rise together as one community for words of Mourner's Kaddish. They can be found on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, B'yama divrach hirtei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudasha barechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Amen. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing to all of us.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. So grateful to be able to be with all of you tonight.